Do you ever sense yourself about to say something that's likely going to get you canceled by the Taylor Swift fandom industrial complex, and yet you say it anyway? Today is a very special video of Cute Shit with Brie because it's raining outside. We have the candles lit. We have the coziest vibes. I mean, this is aesthetic. This is vibe in here today. It's cozy as hell. And I feel like I've made enough Taylor Swift commentary at this point where it's almost uncomfortable because I haven't really come out saying where I stand on her actual songs and her actual albums. Like, I've talked about Travis, I've talked about their relationship, I've talked about the life, the times of Taylor Swift, but what about her albums? How do I feel about them? How do I feel about the songs? How do I even rank them? What are my favorites? What are my least favorites? What are the revelations and what are the absolute roasts? It needed to be done. This video needed to be done. And today it's rainy, it's cold outside. Who's trying to go out there? I don't own rain boots. I don't own an umbrella. Girl, I'm not that prepared. So today's like more of an inside day for those reasons. And it's the perfect kind of day to do this. So I figured let's go through all of Taylor's albums. We're gonna rank the albums from my favorite or least favorite to most favorite. And we're gonna go through my favorite songs on those respective albums and my least favorite songs on those albums. We'll throw in some honorable mentions because I have a feeling picking just one song is going to not actually be possible for me in most cases. And we're gonna need a couple honorable mentions to kind of round it out. But yeah, it's like, I can't remain in the shadows anymore. I can't remain in the closet, the Taylor Swift closet. Like, I need to come out with my faves and my least faves. And if all of you hate them, and by all of you, I mean all 10 of you watching this plus my mom, and you have to leave and never see me again. I respect that and I respect you. And speaking of respecting you and me and that, just because someone says a song is the worst or their least favorite, that doesn't mean they hate the artist producing said song, okay? The analogy I would use is this. You can love a restaurant, right? But you might not love every dish that that restaurant serves for personal preference reasons. I'm a vegetarian. Again, I see 98% of you unsubscribing right now, and there's only 10 of you here. So again, that doesn't leave me with much, but I'm a vegetarian. So I might go to a restaurant and be like, that's a lot of dishes that's just not gonna be for me. They're just not for me. Does that mean I hate the restaurant? Does that mean I hate the restaurant? Girl, no. Girl, no. So let's be sane here. Let's be logical. I mean, I always want to be unhinged and I always want to be illogical. But in this way, let's be sane and logical. Just because someone ranks your favorite T Swift album as their least favorite, that doesn't mean they're saying Taylor Swift is a terrible artist. And if you think that is what they're saying, your favorite song is probably, again, me. And there's nothing to be done for you. I can't help you at that point. So this is my definitive ranking, and my definitive ranking might change because today's rainy and tomorrow might be sunny and I might have a sunnier disposition and I might change a couple of the songs that I like. But for all intents and purposes, this is what I'm going with today in the year of our Lord Beyonce, the year of our Lord T Swift, 2023. So let's get into it. Number one meaning this is my least favorite Taylor Swift album. And least favorite here is a strong word. I would say this is just my least listened to, least acknowledged, most neutral Taylor Swift album. It's hard to say it, but it's debut. It's Taylor Swift. And I did listen to this album and I just remember feeling very like, I was like, It didn't really spark any emotion in me. It didn't really spark anything much at all in me. And the thing to know about me is I'm lactose intolerant. But the other thing to know about me is I don't much care for country music so much in the traditional sense. Like, the super twangy things aren't ever gonna be my number one jams. And that's just kind of that. something in the DNA, you know, I can't really rewire it at this point. So for that reason, debut is kind of like a very, almost like it can't even be ranked for me, but we're ranking it anyway, and it's last. So I guess I shouldn't say number 1. I'll say number 10. Number 10 is debut. Best song on debut? I mean, there's still some hits on debut. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. I would say my best song on debut is probably, in what may or may not surprise you, Should Have Said No. Because I think Teardrops on My Guitar, it's obviously iconic. Just the title of that is iconic. Like, she was really doing a little something in country music that like, she was bringing a youngness and a freshness and like a poetry and like something very interesting to it that I don't think many people were bringing at the time. Teardrops on My Guitar is like an iconic title. So I am going to give that honorable mention actually, but Should Have Said No is best song on debut for me personally. Worst song, looking at the list, A Perfectly Good Heart maybe is the worst song for me. Go back and listen to these if you haven't in a hot minute, because I have a feeling you probably haven't, but for me it's just boring. It's just like, it doesn't sound even like the rest of the record. And I did re-listen to every single Taylor Swift produced song yesterday, every single one, so you're welcome. Thank you to my mans. Thank you to me. And it just really stuck out to me as like, it just feels off on the album. It doesn't really feel exciting to me. So that would be the worst. But again, these are very mild. Ooh, this is gonna get a lot of people fired up. A lot of people about to unsubscribe, unwatch, dislike right now. And you know what? I welcome the criticism. I welcome the feedback. Don't be unhinged, but I welcome the discourse on this one. But my 9th favorite Taylor Swift album, coming in at number 9, is Lover. Sorry to everyone that I had to say what had to be said. I had to say what had to be said. Lover for me is probably one of Taylor's like most overproduced isn't even the right word, but maybe it is. It's just like she went in trying to do a thing really hard. She really wanted to do a thing and say a thing, but not in, I feel like, her normal way. It was just like really manufactured and like really try hard. It reminds me of like, you know, when people are like trying really hard to like look really expensive, but they're like new money maybe. And this is coming from someone with like not new or old money. So like take it with a grain of salt, baby girl. But it just comes off as looking like cheap. That's kind of how Lover felt like for me. Obviously there are standout tracks. Obviously Cruel Summer was a slay from the very get-go. Everyone knew Cruel Summer was a slay. The fact that they did not pick that song to be a single is the absolute most batshit crazy thing I can imagine. It's like, what orbit were we in that me was a single over Cruel Summer? What drugs were we smoking? And let me know so that I can be sure to never, ever ingest those same drugs. Do you know what I mean? For me, it's like best song on Lover's Cruel Summer. Hands up, feet down. I think we can all agree. I don't think anyone's going to debate me on that. Worst song on Cruel Summer. Honestly, I wanted to say Me, because if you've watched any video, you know that Me is probably the only song I consistently shit on all the time because it's chaotic in the worst way. It's chaotic evil. It's chaotic mass produced. I really dislike it. But honestly, Me isn't even as bad as I think I Forgot That You Existed. Me was just shoved down our throats. So that's why Me is more often top of mind for me. But I Forgot That You Existed. Oh, girl. Oh, you wish that we forgot that that song existed. I Forgot That You Existed is tragedy. It is a a car crash. It is, what a way to start an album. Probably the worst Taylor Swift opening song of all time. And I said, I'm sorry. I can't unsay it. I can't package it up in a better way. It is no. Just no. Okay? No, sweetie. No, sweetie. So that's Lover. Honorable mention from Lover, however, is Cornelia Street. Specifically, there's a version that she has live somewhere. From Paris, maybe? The real ones will know. Comment down below if you know. But there's like this version that she does live that is absolutely chef's kiss. Outstanding, exquisite. And we know that Joe is no more, R.I.P. She buried him 6 feet under. He is absolutely casket closed, and we don't really speak of him or know of him anymore. However, thank you for Cornelia Street. Thank you for your service, Joe. I don't even remember his last name. Alwyn. Okay, coming in at number 8. And again, this is difficult because it's like these albums, it's like after we get Lover out of the way, I'm like, you cannot say that any of these albums are like bad or piecemeal or just like trying too hard. These are all good albums. It's just like you have to, if you're ranking them, you have to rank them, and something has to go on top and something has to go on the bottom. And for me, don't hate me, we have Fearless. Our girl Fearless is coming in at number 8. I like Fearless. However, I think for me, it's just there's not quite as like big of an emotional connection and like as I do to some of the other albums, or there's just not as many hits as there are on some of the other albums, or there's just not as much of those other criteria to make it like bam, wham, bam, slam me in the face, to move it up the rankings. But I remember like listening to Fearless in the car and just being like, yes, bitch. So it's like still iconic album. Best song, You Love Story stands are gonna come for me, but I would say best song is You Belong With Me. I'm picking that over Love Story. I feel like You Belong With Me is a little boppier, a little catchier, the music video was just like such an iconic moment, and I have to go with You Belong With Me for that. Don't crucify me again, Love Story stands. I'm sorry. Worst song, it's hard to pick a worst song, but probably Change. Just because I feel like it's kind of boring again. It's like, doesn't really add anything. It's not really adding, and it's boring. So that is, I guess, more of my criteria for worst songs. It's not aggressively bad, like, I forgot that you existed. It's not like offending my ears. It's just boring and not adding that much. But there's so many honorable mentions on Fearless, but if I'm trying to narrow it down to one, I think I have to do 2, honestly, though, because if we're including vault tracks, which I think I just decided that we're going to, Forever and Always, like iconic, and Mr. Perfectly Fine. What a great vault track that was. That really turned out to be a bop. And it's a slightly more country version of Taylor than I probably prefer in my own listening taste, but like you can't lie that Mr. Perfectly Fine is great. And I think Sophie Turner like posted something about Mr. Perfect, like listening to it after her divorce with Joe Jonas, which was absolute tea, absolute slay from her. So that's number 8, or wait, was that 7? Let's just say 8. Okay, number 7. Okay, also, this is really hard. I'm getting a little bit stressed. I'm feeling like everyone's gonna think I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm going with Red next. And I love Red. I think Red is a real series of like highs and lows for me. It's like the highs are very, very high and the lows are like low. And I think Red was like a weird album because there were so many like, it's like, I feel like Red was a very sad, dark album, but yet there were things like 22 that were trying to inject this like false, like, yeah, like levity into it, but it wanted to be dark. It wanted to be emo and it wanted to be very sad, but it couldn't be as sad as it wanted to be. My opinion. But I think I'm going to be canceled for this one. I think I'm going to be absolutely ended for this. If you haven't unsubscribed and stopped watching yet, I think this might be what does it for you, but I think I'm going to pick like my least favorite worst song on Red, again, just for reasons of sonic cohesion of the album, for reasons of like false levity, for reasons of like annoying teeny boppery songs that I don't always like, I am gonna say that 22 is probably my least favorite song. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I know that seeing 22 live and like being 22, it's probably really fun to just like scream that song and sing it with your friends in the show. But like, when you really look at Red, like you can't really pick a bad song. And I just feel like I just really struggled. I was like, I like all these songs. And like, I was like, honestly, if I'm being honest with myself, I like 22 the least. I like 22 the least. Best song, I mean, All Too Well 10-minute version. It really sucks because State of Grace for me is like an ethereal Taylor Swift song. It does not get the credit that it is due. She like never performs it. It is a revelation of a song. I remember listening to that opening track, like Red came out, I'm listening to the song and I'm like, what is this? Is this like a U2 studio opener song? That's what it felt like. It felt like this like really big stadium banger of a hit. And I'm just like, what? It just felt so different from her other albums, from Speak Now, from Fearless. And I was just like, what are we in store for here? Turns out not quite predicting what we were in store for with that song. But I just love that song so much. So All Too Well, 10-minute version, obviously. And State of Grace are tied for favorite for me. 22, so sorry, least favorite. An honorable mention, okay, I have to pick two again because the last time with our boy Gary, that was an iconic song. See, it's like I'm really leaning into the sadder side of Red. You can lean into the happier side of Red if you want. For me, and the poppier side with like, I knew you were trouble when you walked in. But like for me, it's the darker side. It's the dark side of it for me. That might be a theme throughout this whole thing. You can retroactively study it and tell me. And also Holy Ground. Holy Ground also does not get the credit that it is due. Holy Ground was a great song that she also kind of wants to ignore, so sad. Red, great album, very nostalgic, very fall, very fitting for this terrible, sad, dark weather we're having outside. Also fitting for the weather in the winter is my next album. Coming in at number 6 is our girl, our absolute surprise drop of the pandemic. Probably, maybe you're surprised that this is as low as it is. Maybe you're not. Probably you're not because you don't really know anything about me. But I was honestly surprised that this was as low as it was for me when I really was honest with myself and like actually listened to all the songs and really got into the rankings and the metrics, girls. I like Folklore as a whole body of work, but I'm like, there's not really standout songs to me on Folklore. Like, I like to listen to it when like the leaves are falling off the trees and it's like a vibe, but it's like, it's more of like a low level vibe for me. There's not like a high peak, you know, there's no like real bangers or real standouts. I mean, obviously there's no bangers, it's Folklore, mostly. But actually, I disagree because my favorite song on Folklore, y'all gonna roast me for this one. Y'all gonna think I'm absolutely should be checked into an institution for this. And you know, given the title of the song, maybe it tracks, but Mad Woman, I think, is the real standout star of Folklore. Actually, I wouldn't say standout star because I'm not looking at Mad Woman like I'm looking at Cruel Summer. Like I'm not looking at Mad Woman and like, oh, we really miss like a top Billboard hit. I'm not thinking that Mad Woman's a Billboard hit. No one is thinking that. But I love to think about Scooter Braun just shaking in his boots. I love to think about Taylor Swift absolutely setting the mic on fire, picturing Scooter Braun's face in her mind, and just singing that shit to the point that the whole studio is burning down around her. She doesn't even notice. She doesn't even notice. You know? She's just thinking about Scooter Braun, Scott Borchetta, and burning their asses to the ground. Ashes. Ashes, ashes, ashes. I love to picture that. Also, I just love the atmosphericness of it. Also, I'm a woman in the year of our Lord 2023, and there's a lot to be mad about. right? There's a lot to feel a kind of almost otherworldly rage about every second of every day that I breathe and live. So Mad Woman resonates deeply for me. A worst song, this is like my 9th time getting canceled in this video, but I think I'm gonna get re-canceled. Betty doesn't do it for me. I know this is like, people love Betty. People are simping for Betty. All you Betty simps out there, I would love for y'all to explain the appeal and the draw to me, because I'm just not really getting it. It's just like a slow song about like a high schooler to me. And I guess if you're in high school, yes, slay, like that's your people. Betty is your people. But for me, Betty's like, I'm not, what? I'm a mad woman, I'm not Betty. Maybe it's just a stage of life thing. Maybe once you graduate high school, you move more into this like mad woman stage. Maybe, who can say? Honorable mention, obviously Cardigan. Those are great songs. No one's gonna say they're not. They're stunning songs. But still, that's folklore. That's showbiz, baby. Okay, so coming in at number 5. Number 5 is Speak Now. And this is a lot higher than I would have thought. Because when I was originally putting this list together, before I had like gone back and re-listened, because I don't listen to Speak Now very often. Like I remember I had the actual like CD when it came out, and I was like, I listened to it, I really liked it, but I would have put Speak Now, like just if you were asking me in conversation a couple days ago, I probably would have assumed it was much lower than like Red and much lower than Folklore. However, upon revisiting, upon a re-examination, it is absolutely criminal to put Speak Now any lower. Speak Now has no misses. It wasn't pushed in the way that it should have been. And she wrote all those songs by herself, girl. And I know we all know that. If you're watching this long into this video, girl, you know that. We all know that. But like, so impressive to write all those by herself. I feel like mine could have been a real banger, could have been a real radio hit. It just wasn't given the push that it should have been given. I'm bummed. I'm bummed for Speak Now. I didn't get justice. It is a tight album. It's tight in that there's just no misses. It reminds me of 1989, where it's like there's nothing that's redundant. There's nothing that's boring. There's nothing that's not adding something. And I'm like, wow, this really is a slay of an album. Absolute slay. I'm sorry. Speak Now stan, I guess. I forgot, but I done re-remember. So I would say best song is probably Sparks Fly for me. And I had to re-look at the track list to re-remember that. There's so many. It's like I could pick others, but I think Sparks Fly. It's just something unique about it. I love mine, but Sparks Fly, I think, is something unique. Worst song on the actual album, originally as released, cannot pick one. There is none. If we're including the vault tracks though, I'm gonna go ahead and say When Emma Falls in Love. Girls, my hands are tied on this one. It's a phone-in track. I think we can all say that. When Emma Falls in Love is like, what? Girl, what? No. I want to know about When Taylor Falls in Love. I'm not buying Emma Stone's debut, okay? I want Taylor's debut. Do you know what I mean? So When Emma Falls in Love is just no for me. Honorable mentions on Speak Now. Obviously, I didn't even say Dear John. I didn't even say Enchanted. Two amazing full body chill songs. Full body chills. Speak Now deserves to be where it is. It honestly might even deserve to be higher, but I can't, for reasons I'll go into, I can't do that in good conscience, but amazing album. Okay, we're getting into some of the faves. We're getting into some of the absolute faves. Number 4, Midnights. This is obviously exposing me as more of a pop-centric girly, which is a bias. I'm not gonna lie, I'm very biased for pop. I love pop, I love rap, I love loud, I love aggressive, but also maybe I don't. Because when you look at my favorite album, you'll be like, do you though? Do you though, bitch? And I'll be like, I gotta accept that criticism. From myself to myself, I gotta accept that criticism. However, number 4, Midnights. She really did make the whole place shimmer. Midnights to me is still an album that I'm like, I'm still figuring it out. I thought about it one way when it came out, and then I thought about it one way when the breakup was announced, and then I thought about it one way when she was like on stage telling everyone that like she was in love with Maddie Healy, and then I thought about it another way when she released You're Losing Me and Jack Antonoff said it was from 2021 in December. Crazy. So it's like I keep having to rethink about how I think about it, which I think, so that was a lot of me saying I think, but like I love that. I love a living, breathing, growing, thriving, beating heart kind of creature. It's not like dead and buried. It's like we will continue to learn more. We will continue to revisit these songs and think about them in a different way. It's like a piece of like a precious stone or something that you hold up to the light, and it shimmers in a different way depending on what way you hold it up to the light. And I love that. Midnights, I have to say, is above Speak Now for me, probably honestly for one song and one song only, and that song is You're Losing Me, which I felt pushed Midnights honestly into another stratosphere. I loved Midnights when it came out. I thought it was a good kind of like mix of 1989 and Reputation. It's like a mix of those, but You're Losing Me was so deep and so relatable and so, you can't, how many times can you say iconic in a video, but iconic and so different and so just like a gut punch and a heart punch and a face punch and then punching Joe Alwyn in the nuts. It was just everything. It was everything. And I loved it. I died for it. I have listened to it a million times. Probably a million of those streams are probably just me. What can I say? I think the bridge is so good. It's just like when she's like, stop, you're losing me. We've all been in a conversation like that where we're like, stop, bro, like, or girl, or whatever. Like, you are this close to pushing me over the edge to like finally walking away. So, such good songwriting, such a good song. It just catapulted Midnights into spot number 4 for me. Worst song on Midnights? Hard to say, but I would probably pick Labyrinth. I feel like it's kind of like a nothing song. Like it doesn't really add much. It's like not that great. It's just kind of boring and kind of a skip for me. Kind of a skip, right? I think most of us would agree. It's like, compared to Karma, compared to Question, it's just kind of a skip for me. Honorable mention on Midnights and favorite songs on First Listen were definitely Maroon and Karma. Karma's a slay. I mean, now that I've listened to the Eras Live stream like 800 million times, is Karma a little bit boring? Yeah, but Karma is still a guy on the Chiefs. Like Karma is still a slay. But Maroon, full body shivers. Love that song so much. I love the songwriting. I love the emotion in it. I love that I don't know what the fuck it's about. Who does Taylor know with Screw Top, Wine, and Roommates, girl? What? This is about Emma again? Right? Who do you know that's poor? Who do you know that's poor, girl? Because I'd be down. I'd be down. Midnight's number 4. Number 3. Oh, top 3. If you made it this far, you're a true fan of Taylor, not me. And I appreciate you. Number 3. Our girl. Our campy classic, Reputation. Reputation was camp as fuck. And I don't think people really appreciated what that was. I don't even think Taylor really appreciated how camp she was being by deleting her whole Instagram, which wasn't really a thing at the time, putting those freaking snakes up there. I mean, in her Times interview, she mentioned that Reputation is a goth punk moment of female rage about something about gaslighting the entire system. I was like, girl, no offense, but I don't think that's quite it. Reputation is a little more camp than that. I mean, the Look What You Made Me Do music video could be studied in a camp historical class, right? I mean, the references, the self-references, it was not appreciated for what it was at the time. It wasn't so serious. People took it very seriously and therefore were like, what? But it wasn't meant to be taken that seriously. Right? So Reputation, I thought, was another very tight album for Taylor. Like there just wasn't many misses, and I feel like Reputation is pushed over the top of like Speak Now and Midnights for me because the quality is just like a bit higher of every song. I wouldn't necessarily say the highs are like higher, but I would say the quality of even the bottom songs is like brought up a lot for me. And I also thought Reputation was like really her first like really sexy album. I feel like it's dark, it's like sexy, there's scratches on his back. She only wore this dress so you could take it off, and I liked that. That brought me joy to hear and listen to with my ears. So yeah, that was for me. She did that for me, and thank you, Taylor, for doing that for me. I liked the sexiness of it, I liked the campness of it, and I really liked most of the songs. I think calling it a goth punk moment of female rage when there's songs like Gorgeous and New Year's Day is wild. It's like, girl, and Delicate, what? No, it's a love album, but there's dark, and it's like a dark, sexy love album that's very camp. That's what I'll say about that. Best song, I mean, I've played it so much now that it's like, it's a little less of my favorite song, but Delicate, I have to say, still reigns supreme on that album. I heard it immediately and I was like, what is this? Some people, they don't love so much processing on the voice. They don't love so much vocal auto-tuning. That ain't me, bitch. When it's done well, it's done well. And I'll leave it at that. Delicate. Honorable mentions would be, I mean, all the rest of the album, basically, aside from a few, but Dress and So It Goes. I love So It Goes. I love when she's like, and we don't keep score, and then she's like, 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's just, it's genius, it's sexy, it's dark. I love it. Dress is amazing. The fact that neither of those songs are performed in the Eras Tour is an absolute moment of illness for her to not do that. It's really illness, but I have to let it go. I have to just resign control on that. Worst song, this is why we can't have nice things. That song is annoying as fuck, y'all. I'm sorry. It's just like, I can't have nice. I mean, I could never listen to that song again and live my best life. In fact, I would prefer to never hear that song again. Sorry, I'd prefer it. But Reputation is still number 3 for me. Number 2. We only have 2 albums left. At this point, I would love to know what you think is going to be my number 1 and what you think is going to be my number 2. Because I had Reputation at number 3. And what does that mean? Is it 1989 number 1? Is Evermore number 1? Drum roll, please. Number 2 is "1989 Babies." I'm sorry. This is an amazing album. I mean, front to back, we talk about tight albums. We talk about Speak Now. We talk about Reputation. But I think 1989 has got to be the tightest. I should stop saying tight, right? It's getting weird now. Okay, I'll stop saying it. It's got to be the best of them all. It's hard to find a word to sum up what I mean by that. But what I mean is like there's no misses. It's just like it's clean, it's concise. It goes from banger to banger to banger. Thank you, Max Martin, for that, probably. He is a pop god for producing so many of these songs. It's like there's just not a miss on 1989. I mean, I listened to this album and I was like, oh, the old Taylor dead for real. For real, the old Taylor dead. It's like Reputation is not when the old Taylor died. That is actually a common misconception propagated by Taylor Swift herself. 1989 is actually when the old Taylor died for real, because that bitch cut her hair. She said bye-bye to country. She started deciding that she was going to show her belly in every single pap walk, and she changed her entire sonic style. So I don't know what she's talking about that she died in Reputation. No, girl, she died in 1989. You can quote me on that. But 1989, it's like, and if we're talking about 1989 original versus 1989 Taylor's version, there's different songs that stick out to me. But style, I think overall, has to be named a favorite. It did not get an iconic music video treatment like Blank Space, and still manages, I think, to be one of the most streamed songs like on the original album. And Blank Space, I mean, I think Blank Space is her best music video that she's ever done, point blank, period. Nothing even comes close. The visuals, the makeup, the looks, the storytelling, amazing, will never be repeated, likely. I mean, I hope it is, but so far it hasn't been. But style, the imagery, that guitar in the beginning, that song fucks, y'all. It fucks. Worst song on 1989, there is none. But if I'm going with the vault tracks, I'm gonna say Suburban Legends, because I feel like that song adds nothing and it's boring. And it's like, how we don't need a 19th Haler song on the album. Like, if there's one Haler song that can be cut and it's a Haler album, it's like we can cut that one. That one is, to me, more of a nothing song. Honorable mention of 1989, I mean, how many can I pick? How many am I allowed to pick? Let's say 3. Wonderland. Because I listened to Wonderland on the original, didn't make much of an impact. Wonderland on Taylor's version, she put her whole claws into that song. She made that song pop the fuck off. So I'm saying Wonderland. And I'm saying Now That We Don't Talk. Do I wish it was 5 minutes longer? Yeah. But iconic still. Is It Over Now? Blank Space. Sorry, I'm naming the whole album now, but I'm allowed to do that because I'm filming this shit. All right, so 1989 was number 2, so that means y'all know what's number 1. Evermore. The album I am scared to think that we almost didn't get. If this bitch wouldn't have thought of like the chorus for Willow and then wrote the whole song in COVID, we might not have even gotten Evermore. First of all, are there any Evermore stans here? Raise your hand below if you're an Evermore stan. Please, I need to know who's with me and who's against me, basically. Because I feel like Evermore does not get, it wasn't like it's like the younger sister. It's not the eldest sister, okay? It didn't go to Harvard. It didn't get the prestige of like being the firstborn. It was the secondborn. Maybe she's a little dumber, you know what I mean? She didn't get all the attention, all the accolades. It's just a shot of the back of her head on the family photo album, not even the front, just the back of her head in a braid. And I just feel like she didn't get the pomp, the circumstance, the fanfare I would have liked. She didn't get the full folklore treatment, and that bums me out because I do wonder if Evermore had been first, what would have our reactions have been? Would they have been different? Would Evermore be more of a stan album? And I think the answer is yes, but we'll never know, unfortunately. However, I can say confidently that this is probably my most revisited, like front to back Taylor Swift album. Like, despite knowing that like 1999 is an amazing tight album and like knowing that Speak Now is full of bangers, like I can sit down and just press play on Evermore song 1 and just listen to that shit. No skips for me. No skips. I mean, Willow, we start off strong. I know a lot of people don't like Willow, but it's like, I like it and I'm sorry. And I'm not sorry. Does that make sense? Because then we go into Champagne Problems. And in Champagne Problems, it's like, I'm transported, I'm on the East Coast. I'm like eating a lobster roll and I'm on the East Coast and I'm like sipping my tea and my coffee and it's like a little blustery outside and I'm just like rich. And I'm like wearing my rich outfit. And then we go to Gold Rush and I'm still rich. And I'm like getting off my sailboat or something. It's just like the imagery is all so vivid. And then we go to 'Tis the Damn Season. And then we go to Tolerate It. Stab me in the heart 1,000 freaking times. I'm obsessed with Tolerate It. I love it. Tolerate It does something to me spiritually. But it really does. It just takes me to a place that I don't know about. And I mean, Right Where You Left Me has to be named as one of Taylor's all-time best songs. It's also one of her most wordy songs, which she named on the Eras Tour. It's like her most, like, I think per words per minute song, it might be one of her most wordy. And it was very difficult for her to perform live, she said, because it's so wordy. There's so many words to remember. And she did mess it up live when she performed it. But mess up is a strong word. I mean, she still killed. But I love that song. Marjorie, I love, especially with the Eras Tour treatment that it's gotten. Closure, Evermore. I mean, if there's a worse song on Evermore, it would probably be Dorothea, maybe. That might be my one skip of the album. I mean, people love No Body, No Crime. It's just like Cowboy Like Me. I mean, it's exquisite. To me, it's like folklore had to get out so Evermore could be birthed. And it's number one in my heart, number one in my soul, number one in my body. Just number one. And I do consider myself more of like a upbeat pop girl. I mean, embarrassingly enough, I think 2019 Post Malone was like my number one artist on Spotify Wrapped. So do with that toxic information whatever you will. But Evermore is just special. It's just something different to me. It just really hits me. It hits me. The 1, 2, 3, 4 punch of Willow, Champagne Problems, Gold Rush, Tis a Tam Season, and then Tolerate It, to me, there's just nothing better. There's nothing better. So Evermore is the best album for me with all the best songs. And I cannot pick a best song. I can't pick one, I'll pick the whole album. And that's that, and that's that. And just like she said in Closure, I know that it's over, but I don't need your closure. So I'll see you next week.